The mistress my fiancé keeps is acting brazenly in front of me. He claims Audrey Lancaster once had a plane grounded for him, that she lost a £1 million deal for his sake. He asks me what I, the fiancé, amount to. What do I amount to? I amount to your bloody father. Ding. Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. It had been a fortnight since I'd last seen my fiancé, and rumors kept reaching my ears. Even while waiting for a cab on the street, I could overhear people gossiping about her infidelity. Have you heard? Someone actually forced a plane to stop recently. You're only just finding out? The Lancaster Group heiress had a row with her boyfriend and did that in a fit of rage. Oh my. I wonder what kind of handsome bloke could earn such a privilege. It felt as if an invisible hand had slapped me hard across the face. I closed my eyes briefly, suppressing the anger rising within me. The driver finally pulled up, breaking into a cold sweat when he saw my expression. I was in no mood to dwell on the driver's tardiness. My mind entirely focused on Audrey Lancaster. Today, Gillian Yardley was hosting a gathering for our social circle. In the group chat, Gillian had repeatedly insisted that everyone must attend. Audrey hadn't said anything, but she hadn't refused either. I composed myself before entering the restaurant. Although I was furious with Audrey, this matter would have to wait until after the dinner. I still had my dignity to maintain, even if she didn't. As I approached the private room, I could hear Winifred Quillen's loud voice. That bloke's a model, always jetting off to fashion shows, and Audrey's been following him around everywhere. I heard he threw a strop and ran off to France recently. Audrey canceled several meetings to go and placate him. She even queued for 2 hours at a collectibles shop with that pretty boy. I ignored the chatter and pushed open the door, my face expressionless. Winifred fell silent as soon as she saw me enter. "Will?" she greeted me. I nodded in response, considering it sufficient acknowledgement. Today's gathering was a small affair for our inner circle. There were only 8 chairs in the private room. Gillian, who had organized the event, and the gossipy Winifred were already seated. For others were playing cards on the sofa. We were just waiting for Audrey. I was discussing some business matters with Gillian when Audrey walked in. After 2 weeks apart, Audrey looked the same as ever, cool and elegant. She sat down next to me, helping me with my cutlery as she usually did. It was a far cry from Winifred's description of someone who would do anything for that man. I glanced at her, my anger subsiding slightly. However, halfway through the meal, there was a knock at the door. A scantily clad young man entered. He was wearing a vest and shorts, with several leather straps wrapped around his body. His face was covered by an intricately carved mask. Half hidden, half exposed, it left much to the imagination. The moment he appeared, Audrey tensed beside me. The atmosphere around her instantly grew cold. Well, where did this pretty boy come from? Hotel service. Winifred couldn't resist a jab, though she couldn't do much else given the occasion. The young man seemed flustered, but his gaze remained fixed on Audrey. With a trembling voice, he said, "Today is our shop's anniversary event. We're randomly selecting a lady to participate in our activity." A bit of banter was fine, but participating in such an activity in front of us would be too much of a loss of face. Even Winifred fell silent. Gillian was already displeased. This wasn't the sort of thing one expected at a proper gathering. She took out her phone, ready to contact the restaurant owner. Just as the young man was about to lose face, Audrey stood up. "I'll participate," she said. Without even a glance in my direction, she quickly left, dragging the young man along. It happened so suddenly that by the time they reacted, the door had already closed. The room fell into an extreme silence. Everyone was watching for my reaction. I leisurely picked up my chopsticks and helped myself to the untouched pork knuckle. "This dish is quite good," I remarked. After I spoke, everyone in the room seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, hurrying to agree with me. Winifred tried to curry favor. "It is indeed. Will, you should eat more. You've lost weight recently." I put down my chopsticks. "The dish is good, but I don't like it." The room returned to that eerie silence, and I no longer had the appetite to continue the meal. Leaving with a brief "I'm off," I exited the private room. After my call to Audrey Lancaster was abruptly ended, I stared at the text message she sent me. "Will, I have an urgent matter." I scoffed. An urgent matter? Playing cosplay with some boy hardly counts as urgent. Audrey and I have known each other for 16 years, practically childhood sweethearts. When I was 20, our families arranged our engagement. It was meant to be a power couple union, and Audrey never objected. But now she's pulling this found true love nonsense, which is just ridiculous. I called her grandfather to complain, embellishing the story a bit. Old Mr. Lancaster was so angry he couldn't stop coughing. After that day, I didn't see Audrey for a long time. However, I heard she got a proper scolding from her grandfather. Half of her projects were taken away, and there were no more rumors about her and that puppy love boy. My family was fairly satisfied with the outcome, but I didn't expect someone dissatisfied would come to confront me. Every month, I host a gathering to network and provide others a chance to make connections. This month it was on a yacht. I rarely review the guest list, leaving it to my secretary. But I never expected Audrey's little lover to sneak in. There was a small bar on the boat where I was watching a popular idol sing and dance with some close mates. The girl was barely in her early 20s, but even in this environment, you couldn't miss the sparkle in her eyes. Just as I was getting into it, a slender young man blocked my view. One glance and I recognized him as the masked man from that day, Audrey's little lover. He looked down at me, lips tightly pressed, eyes full of arrogance and pride. I narrowed my eyes. "What's this all about? Who are you? Can't you see you're blocking our view?" Timmy Simpson has a hot temper. He was just getting into watching the pretty girl and nearly shoved Audrey's little lover aside. A haughty voice rang out, "I'm Zach Lancaster." Timmy looked at me, as if asking if I knew him. I shook my head, and he looked to the others. After getting a round of "don't know him" from everyone, Timmy suddenly stood up and pushed Zach. "Are you mental? What are you playing at? Security? Get him out of here." Timmy didn't use much force, and Zach only stumbled a bit. But he wasn't one to be bullied without fighting back. With a forceful swing of his arm, he actually knocked Timmy down. I rubbed my temples. Timmy isn't exactly vengeful, but he certainly holds grudges. This wasn't going to end well. Sure enough, my mates all stood up, and Timmy even grabbed a bottle. Just as Timmy was about to lash out, Zach lifted his chin and spoke. "William Yardley, if anything happens to me on your turf, Audrey Lancaster won't let you off." Zach's voice was confident and proud, absolutely sure of his words. I'm not afraid of Audrey, nor do I believe she would come after me for his sake. But I still held Timmy back. It wouldn't be good to let Timmy and Audrey become enemies here. If they have a score to settle, they can do it off the boat. Zach was clearly here for me. After shooing Timmy and the others away, I finally faced him properly. He was still standing there, the naivety of youth not yet gone from him, without a hint of masculinity. He didn't seem like Audrey's type at all. "Audrey doesn't love you," I smirked, and, as if not expecting my reaction, Zach faltered. "It's all because of you that Audrey was scolded by her grandfather, that her work isn't going well. How can you act like nothing's happened after doing such things?" I stared into his eyes and said, word by word, "Audrey has only herself to blame for all this. She had no business cheating when she couldn't handle the consequences." The words cheating pierced William Yardley's heart, causing his face to change dramatically. "You and Audrey are only in a business marriage. Audrey isn't cheating," he exclaimed. "I am her fiancé, chosen by all the Lancaster family members. Our engagement photos are still hanging in the Lancaster Group office. And you're sleeping with her. If that's not cheating, what is? Care to explain, little homewrecker?" Zach Lancaster's face flushed red and pale in turns, his chest heaving violently. I leaned back casually on the sofa, no longer looking at him. My gaze drifted past him to the girl singing and dancing on stage. "I'm already an international model, earning 6 figures monthly on my own. I'm better than you in looks and talent. You just got lucky being born into wealth. spending your days partying like a wastrel. Only I am worthy of Audrey. Looking at his indignant face, I couldn't help but laugh. You're not bad, but Kingston is full of golden boys and girls. You are one, and so is that lovely lady, I said, nodding towards the girl shining on stage. But I'm not just gold. I own the gold mine. Ignoring his ugly expression, I continued, how much can you really love Audrey Lancaster? If you truly loved her that much, you'd have kept it hidden instead of coming to confront me. You've just had a taste of high society and want to stay, but you've picked the wrong person. Your abilities and Audrey's love are worthless to me. Power and money don't spread through sex like AIDS, and class differences are insurmountable. The only reason you can even stand here talking to me now is because of Audrey Lancaster. If she wasn't my fiancée, you wouldn't even have the right to speak to me. Zach's face turned deathly pale. His lips pressed into a tight line, looking stubborn yet pitiful. I rarely speak so harshly, but today I didn't hold back because I was thoroughly annoyed. Audrey Lancaster's inability to see things clearly had already embarrassed me multiple times. Now her little lover had the audacity to come boast in front of me, eating from my bowl while still pursuing love elsewhere. I stood up, brushing off non-existent dust from my clothes. Mr. Lancaster, you've enjoyed the privileges that come with that number plate with 5/8, haven't you? Audrey probably didn't tell you, but that was an engagement gift from my family. My words completely shattered Zach Lancaster's misplaced confidence. His love affair with Audrey Lancaster had become the talk of the town. They'd been seen all over Kingston streets in that Bentley with the 5/8 plate. The outside world speculated that Kingston's top heiress had settled down for a model and might even defy her family for him. But I knew better. She wouldn't. She didn't have it in her. I walked out onto the deck, even though I'd hosted countless such parties. But the number of times I'd appeared in public at these events could be counted on one hand. Usually, I just stayed in the cabin with a few friends, or caught up on sleep alone in my private bed. The purpose of these parties wasn't for fun. Even at my own event, it was rare for me to grace it with my presence. I stopped in front of the first mate leaning against the railing. Stop the boat. The first mate looked bewildered, clearly not understanding. Turn back, I said, then returned to the cabin. The gazes of the second-generation socialites around me never left me. I could have easily messaged the captain without making an appearance. My purpose in doing this was to let everyone know I was angry. My fiancé's lover had openly confronted me. How could I continue hosting a party? What face would the Yardley family have left? Early the next morning, the housekeeper came to knock on my door, saying the Lancasters had arrived. She added that Madame said the young master should take his time getting ready, and it was fine to come down a bit later. I simply rolled over in bed and went back to sleep. It was already midnight when I came downstairs, and there was a woman on the sofa. I narrowed my eyes. It wasn't Audrey Lancaster. It was Mabel Lancaster, Audrey's elder half-sister, the illegitimate daughter of the Lancaster family. Seeing me come down, Mabel quickly stood up. Mr. Yardley, Audrey had an urgent matter and left early. I didn't show any impatience, sitting down on the sofa and nodding. Seeing that I didn't respond, Mabel eagerly explained. Audrey was really in a hurry. I think her friend sprained her ankle, so she rushed off. Please don't be angry, Mr. Yardley. I smiled and changed the subject. Miss Lancaster, you've been waiting for so long. Would you like to stay for lunch? Mabel nodded hastily when she heard my offer. I stood up and instructed the servant nearby. Ask Miss Lancaster about her preferences and take her to dine. I have other matters to attend to. Please make yourself at home, Miss Lancaster. After a slight nod, I walked past Mabel. Mabel's face must have looked quite unpleasant, but I didn't care. In this arranged marriage between powerful families, Audrey and the Lancasters were already out of the game. There are only a few such families in Kingston, and when it was initially decided, Audrey was the best choice. The Lancaster family had deep-rooted influence and excellent family education. But just 6 months after we were engaged, the Lancasters acknowledged an illegitimate daughter older than Audrey and a younger illegitimate son. The Lancaster couple's marriage fell apart, and family scandals gradually came to light. Audrey, who was once the most promising heir of the main branch, now found herself struggling within the family. By then, Audrey was no longer the best choice, but my family never considered breaking off the engagement. Until today, when Audrey left and Mabel stayed behind. She knew I wouldn't be interested in Mabel, so in her desperation, she left Mabel as some sort of explanation. But I don't accept this explanation. Neither do my parents and sister. While I was playing golf, the news of the Yardley and Lancaster families canceling the engagement had already spread all over the internet. I didn't need to make an appearance. My parents were extremely efficient. The news article was long and detailed, officially stating that even though the engagement was canceled, the Yardley and Lancaster families would remain business partners, while also subtly hinting at the reasons for breaking off the engagement. Immediately, gossip news dug up every detail of Audrey Lancaster and Zach Lancaster's love story. Some criticized them, but more people praised their love. I showed my mates the headline, "Lancaster heiress forces plane to stop for him. Their expensive romance is worth it." If I remember correctly, I was the official fiancé, so he was still the other man this morning, wasn't he? My mate shrugged. True love knows no bounds, I guess. Laughable true love knows no bounds. The protagonists of this news story also proved this point. They brazenly appeared at my house. Audrey had lost quite a bit of weight with Zach Lancaster by her side. Audrey's mother brought them, and I raised an eyebrow, wondering what this was all about. My mother held her teacup, her face displeased, while Audrey's mother wore a smiling expression. I forgot to mention, Audrey's mother doesn't like me very much. There's no particular reason, especially after their family scandal was exposed. Her hostility towards me intensified. "William, let Auntie have a look at you. It's been so long, and you've become even more handsome. What brand is that outfit? It makes you look even more dashing. Don't you think so, Zach?" My face instantly darkened. Only my upbringing kept me from exploding on the spot. My mother slammed her teacup on the coffee table. The jade cup couldn't withstand the impact and shattered. "Mom," Audrey's disapproving voice rang out. Mrs. Lancaster was a famous actress in her youth. Perhaps the Lancaster family had a gene for hopeless romantics, as Mr. Lancaster had married her against his family's wishes. However, not long after their marriage, he had an affair and brought home 2 illegitimate children. The love of her youth had been too intense, and Mrs. Lancaster could never accept this betrayal. For those who live for love, when love is gone, they are left with nothing. Mrs. Lancaster's personality changed dramatically. She acted as if everyone owed her something and couldn't bear to see others happy. Our family's happiness was particularly galling to her. The 2 families were joined by marriage, and people often compared my mother to her, which had built up resentment in her heart for years. Zach Lancaster, as if oblivious to the tension, chimed in, "Yes, it would look great on William." Crash! Before he could finish, my mother grabbed the teapot and smashed it at his feet. Hot water, tea leaves, and shards exploded near Zach's feet. "How dare you pass judgment on my son, you nobody?" My mother spat. The living room fell silent. I heard a door open upstairs, and moments later, I saw my elder sister appear at the second-floor railing. She just stood there, watching the scene below without saying a word. My sister had entered the business world before me, and years in commerce had given her an intimidating presence without even trying. She was always the most protective of me. The situation was awkward. Zach was too frightened to speak, and Audrey Lancaster closed her eyes briefly. Mrs. Lancaster, feeling the sting of my mother's words, flushed red and pale in turns. "Aunt, I came here today to apologize. This was my fault. You've known me since I was little. From now on, William will be like my own brother," Audrey said, maintaining her composure despite the tense atmosphere. As soon as she finished speaking, a scornful laugh came from upstairs. "William doesn't need a sister. Miss Lancaster, if you want to apologize, show some sincerity," my sister said. Audrey looked up, her eyes dark. The Lancaster Group's new digital product launch will be delayed by 2 weeks next season, she offered. I remained silent. Audrey kept her eyes on my sister, but my sister's gaze never left me. Seeing no reaction from me, my sister finally spoke after a moment. Not enough. The living room fell into a long silence. Just as I was starting to lose patience, Audrey spoke again. The Lancaster Group will withdraw from the project at the end of the month. I tilted my head back, a smile tugging at my lips. You're really willing to sacrifice a lot, aren't you? Before she could respond, I leaned back, looking at this shameless woman. Since you've brought your mother here to apologize, let's get on with it. Don't waste any more time. Audrey stood up, with Mrs. Lancaster reluctantly following suit. But Zach wasn't having it. William Yardley, don't push your luck. Audrey has already made such big concessions. I looked at him mockingly. If you're not willing, feel free to leave. Zach. Audrey snapped coldly, and Zach stood up, holding back tears. Audrey stood in front of me with Mrs. Lancaster and Zach behind her. Watching them formally apologize to me was quite the spectacle. I had underestimated Zach, overestimated Audrey, and underestimated the power of blind love. She must think that by offering some compensation and an apology, this matter could be resolved. If love is so important, then losing a few things shouldn't matter, right? As the Lancaster family was leaving, Zach was the last to go. With red eyes, he said he would remember today's humiliation. I shrugged. Remember it, I thought. If you can remember it for a lifetime, that's quite a memory you've got. Audrey Lancaster had made her sacrifice, reaching an agreement with my sister not to trouble her, so she could focus on her internal feud with Mabel Lancaster. However, even without my sister's interference, Audrey, as the legitimate wife, held no advantage over the illegitimate daughter without our family's support. I heard that Grandfather Lancaster was very disappointed in Audrey for breaking off the engagement. This time, Zach Lancaster had gained both reputation and status. Everyone in our circle knew that Audrey Lancaster had defied her family for him, and I had become a laughingstock. Of course, they didn't dare to show it in front of me. It was the first time in years that people could mock me. Zach Lancaster was intentionally avoiding me, but unexpectedly, Timmy Simpson invited us both to the same party. Today, Timmy said he had invited the cute singer and dancer from that night. I was still somewhat interested in those sparkling eyes, but as soon as I arrived, I saw Zach Lancaster. He was surrounded by a few starlets, clearly the center of attention. They were laughing uproariously at something he said. As I was hesitating whether to leave, a hand appeared on my shoulder. Timmy Simpson whispered in my ear, "Brother, I'll avenge you today. Don't." Before I could finish, Timmy grabbed a bottle of champagne. He shook it vigorously while covering the opening, then aimed it at Zach Lancaster. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're honored to have Mr. Lancaster, the star of the airplane scandal. Let's welcome him." Timmy's voice attracted everyone's attention. In the dim light of the bar, Zach Lancaster's face visibly reddened. Except for Timmy, no one cheered. They were all whispering about him. "Since no one's welcoming Mr. Lancaster, I'll do it myself." He grinned, showing a row of white teeth, and aimed the champagne at Zach Lancaster. The cork popped with a bang, accompanied by Zach Lancaster's scream. The champagne sprayed directly onto his handsome face. When the bottle was empty, Zach Lancaster's hair was sticking to his face, and his clothes were soaked. "What are you all staring at? Applaud." The people around tried to hold back their laughter as they started clapping. This had nothing to do with me, but Timmy was determined to drag me into it. Without hesitation, I turned to leave. But I had only taken 2 steps when someone hugged me from behind. There was a gasp from behind, followed by the sound of breaking glass and the smell of blood. Warm liquid dripped onto my arm. I looked up and saw those eyes full of starlight. The owner of those eyes smiled, revealing delicate dimples. On the way to the hospital, I really couldn't understand Zach Lancaster's thought process. Timmy Simpson was the one who had humiliated him, so how could he take his revenge out on me? From the looks of it, if Elsie Green hadn't shielded me, I would have been the one with a cracked skull. Thinking about this, I was even more confused. Did he not know what price he would have to pay for cracking my skull? Elsie Green went into surgery to get stitches. Being young, she hadn't even passed out. I had just sat down in the waiting area when my parents and Timmy Simpson's older brother arrived. My mum checked me from head to toe, and Timmy's brother also breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't need to notify them. They knew about such a big incident immediately. Timmy's brother came to apologize. Although I wasn't injured, I was still shocked, and it was all because of Timmy. As for the main culprit, Zach Lancaster, he was taken to the police station along with Timmy Simpson. People like us rarely end up at the station when something happens. It's usually settled privately. I heard from my mum that Audrey Lancaster went to bail out Zach Lancaster. Even someone as composed as her lost her temper in front of everyone. At such a crucial time in the Lancaster family's internal conflict, another scandal had erupted. Elsie Green refused to settle privately and insisted on pressing charges against Zach Lancaster. This was also my intention. I never showed up again. That same day, I flew to Qatar with Elsie Green, who had just gotten her stitches. She had taken a hit for me. The least I could do was take her somewhere nice to recuperate. It was a month later when I returned to England, and by chance, I ran into Audrey Lancaster and Zach Lancaster at the airport. I suddenly felt like they were haunting me. Kingston was such a big place, yet we could bump into each other so easily. They seemed to be there to pick someone up. Audrey's gaze fell on my hand, which was holding Elsie's. I glanced at Audrey. If you set aside the elegance built on money and power, Elsie was no less attractive than her. In fact, Elsie was younger and in better shape. Zach looked at me as if I were his mortal enemy, his eyes blazing with anger. He tried to lunge at me but was held back by Audrey. "William Yardley, you piece of rubbish. So what if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth? You're just a useless waste. Can't even use that posh car registration plate anymore. You really think you're so noble? Audrey told me everything. You're just a useless tool for an arranged marriage." Audrey's face darkened. Her boyfriend was making a scene like a fishwife in public, which must have been embarrassing for her. I chuckled softly. "Zach Lancaster, one should know one's place. Not everyone is as heartless as Audrey Lancaster, biting the hand that feeds them. I need marriage, but I don't need love. Take my advice. Audrey's mother is a cautionary tale for you." "You!" Zach choked on my words, while Audrey remained silent. I knew Zach wouldn't believe me. Love is more intoxicating than power. But when the passion fades, how many can maintain their initial intentions? He was currently out on bail, having to report to the police station every day. I ignored them and walked towards the exit. As I brushed past Audrey, I heard her call out to me. "Will, have you been well lately?" My body paused. In the past, even if we hadn't seen each other for half a year, Audrey had never asked how I was doing. I turned to look at her face and slowly uttered a few words. "None of your bloody business." With that, I pulled along the wary Elsie and turned to leave, with Zach's shouts erupting behind us. Toxic women just love to play games. Originally, we had planned to stay longer in Qatar, but my sister said the Lancaster family's internal war was reaching its peak, and it would be perfect timing for me to add fuel to the fire by returning now. Audrey had reached an agreement with my sister, but she hadn't made any agreement with me. My people had been keeping tabs on all the Lancaster family affairs. Now Audrey had her grandfather's favor and the support of the extended family. Meanwhile, Mabel Lancaster was backed by her father. They were resorting to all means to bribe and win people over, maintaining a bizarrely balanced situation. If I were to add some kindling now, the fire would burn even more fiercely. Over the years, because of my elder sister's business acumen, I had never truly entered the company. People say I'm not as capable as my elder sister, but what they don't know is that I've always been looking for an opportunity to truly make everyone remember that I, William Yardley, am the heir to the Yardley family. I've always held the position of CEO at Yardley Ventures, and although it has developed well in recent years, it's still far from being a top-tier company. But I'm willing to bet all of Yardley Ventures' worth on this. I supported Mabel Lancaster. The day the news broke, the phone at home hadn't stopped ringing. The Yardley and Lancaster families were industry giants, and other companies were probing to see if the Yardley family was indeed supporting Mabel Lancaster. My parents had already fled, leaving only the servants to answer the home phone. I heard that Audrey went to see my sister once, but left with a grim face in less than half an hour. I could guess what they talked about. My sister probably just deflected, saying I am my own person, and she is hers. Many had wanted to interfere in the Lancaster family's internal war, but they didn't dare to take sides. Choosing the wrong side could lead to retaliation and losses. As the first to make a move, I fired the opening shot, and instantly countless companies came to add their stakes. The Lancaster family became even more chaotic. Grandfather Lancaster wanted to end this internal war, but the arrow was already on the string and couldn't be taken back. Everyone knew that Mabel Lancaster was incompetent, a complete waste compared to Audrey Lancaster. But no one was pure-hearted enough to truly want Lancaster Group to develop better. After half a month of chaos, Mabel Lancaster was showing signs of overtaking Audrey Lancaster. The time was ripe. I released the news online about Zach Lancaster injuring Elsie Green with a bottle. Elsie was a popular celebrity with a large and fanatical fan base. Coupled with the recent buzz about Zach Lancaster and Audrey Lancaster's love story online, within half an hour everything was dug up and exposed. The internet was flooded with curses and insults. Before they could even manage public relations, Lancaster Group stock had plummeted. The power of Elsie's fans was even stronger than I had imagined. As I was watching the news of Audrey Lancaster and Zach Lancaster being pushed to the top of trending topics by fans, the girl beside me suddenly leaned over. "Will, darling, it's not right to just use me like this. I'll be expecting compensation." Elsie was as alluring as a vixen, the scar on her forehead making her look particularly sexy. Those eyes I loved so much were full of deep affection, though I couldn't tell how much of it was genuine. But I didn't care. I got Elsie Green 2 lead roles, which made her happy and me too. Elsie is a smart girl. She never considered herself my girlfriend, and apart from being a bit wild, I'm quite satisfied with her. Audrey Lancaster's reputation was damaged because of Zach Lancaster. Mabel Lancaster was pressing hard, and under public pressure, Grandfather Lancaster had no choice but to abandon Audrey. Mabel became the heir. After Mabel took over, she swiftly cleared out Audrey's faction. It was a risky move, but necessary for long-term development. Yes, that was my advice to Mabel. For a time, there was widespread discontent in the Lancaster Group. Many senior officials were removed from the company in extremely undignified ways. Grandfather Lancaster fell ill from anger, and Mabel became even more unrestrained. Suddenly gaining immense power, she acted as if she had the whole world in her grasp. Half of Lancaster Group's top management was cleared out by her. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. Her days of arrogance were numbered. Days of debauchery and decadence followed. Mabel was reported for misconduct in the office and was taken away for investigation. When I heard this news, I was drinking water and nearly choked. What a hopeless mess. My sister quickly grabbed some tissues and handed them to me. "Audrey Lancaster has already lost, William. It's time to stop." I blinked. "Sis, the game has just begun." My sister was stunned. It was amusing to see someone usually so composed looking so shocked. "Are you serious?" She thought I was just getting revenge on Audrey. No one knew my thoughts. My sister knew I had ambition, but she never imagined I would drag down the Lancaster family. Even she didn't dare to think about destroying the Lancaster family. I stretched lazily and said with a smile, "Sis, don't underestimate your little brother. From the beginning, I never wanted to marry Audrey Lancaster. But some things aren't just about what I want. Marrying her would have maximized benefits, but if I could kick Lancaster Group out of the game, that would be another story." Yardley Group led the betrayal, leaking all the scandals they had collected about Lancaster Group as if they were giving them away for free. Grandfather Lancaster was in a coma. Audrey's father was ineffective, so they had to call Audrey back to save the situation. But the top management was full of Mabel's people. Audrey was hindered at every turn and couldn't make any waves. Lancaster Group stock fell for 3 consecutive days. During these 3 days, Audrey worked tirelessly, trying everything to save Lancaster Group. It was all in vain. Audrey was decisive. She cut her losses, shrinking the company by more than half. Although severely wounded, she managed to keep Lancaster Group alive. Everyone knew that Lancaster Group would never rise again. There are no friends in business, only interests. Now Lancaster Group was just a piece of fat meat, waiting to be divided. I was the one who ate the biggest piece of that fat meat. The day I took away Lancaster Group's core projects, my sister threw a celebration party for me at the company. The whole company stopped work, and thousands cheered for me. Since the establishment of Yardley Group, only I have received such an honor. A person might only live for a few moments in their lifetime, but my moments are certainly not about losing myself in proclamations of love. After the celebration, my father gave me a Rolls-Royce. I had several luxury cars in my garage, but this one was different. The black Rolls-Royce had a license plate with 5/8. Everyone knew that the 5/8 license plate was for the Yardley family's marriage alliance. If it was given to a Yardley family member, it meant they were the rightful heir. I don't need any strong alliances. I alone am enough. I love power and I love money, but I love success even more. That feeling of standing high above others, it intoxicates me. People like us, how could we get entangled in petty love affairs? Oh right, except for those blinded by love. Extra Chapter 1. At a charity auction, I met Audrey Lancaster's elder brother, Joseph Lancaster. Before the Lancaster family's downfall, Joseph was considered one of the top rich kids in Kingston. The Lancaster family had more daughters than sons. Although he was uneducated, he married well. His in-laws held great power. But after Lancaster Group's decline, Joseph hadn't appeared in public for over a year. His cheeks were sunken, the dark circles under his eyes impossible to hide. At just 35 or 36, his hair had already grayed considerably. It seems this year has been quite taxing. Now Lancaster Group was barely hanging on, with less than 100 employees, managed by Audrey Lancaster. They owed this outcome to Joseph. Perhaps my gaze was too direct, as Joseph looked towards me. As our eyes met, I saw his hand clench tightly. Suddenly interested, I handed my auction paddle to Elsie Green and had the waiter clear a seat next to him. Seeing me brazenly sit down beside him, Joseph's eyes turned grim. He probably wanted to see me least of all. Putting aside the fact that I was the main culprit in bringing down the Lancaster family, just the difference in our current status was enough to make him miserable for life. I sat down leisurely and asked with a smile, "Brother, how have you been lately?" Joseph lowered his voice, anger evident in his tone. "Don't call me brother." He clenched his jaw and raised his head, not looking at me, putting on airs of nobility. These Lancaster people always fail to see reality. "Indeed, I shouldn't call you brother. Your current status," I looked him up and down, "doesn't deserve it. You, even if I've fallen on hard times, I'm still Carly Rogers' husband." Joseph could no longer contain his temper. He stood up, pointing at me and exploding. I glanced at his wife Carly Rogers' expression, then returned to my seat with an unconcerned smile. Only Joseph was left standing there, the center of attention. To destroy the grass, you must remove the roots. Joseph couldn't protect the Lancaster family, and I wouldn't allow him to either. Our conversation was like a small interlude. I frequently raised my paddle to bid on a necklace, finally winning it at a price of millions to give to Elsie Green. The next day, the media reported on how I had lavishly spent millions on Elsie Green, with countless people praising our love. This reminded me of the year when Joseph forced a plane to stop for Zach Lancaster. At that time, they were also glorious and moving. I suddenly felt it was all pointless and dialed Elsie Green's number. "Let's not contact each other anymore." There was a long silence on the other end of the phone, finally ending with, "I want to be the lead actress in Felix Gregory's new film." Extra Chapter 2. On the day Lancaster Group officially announced its bankruptcy, I parked my Rolls-Royce with the 5/8 license plate in front of their company. The small company had shrunk again and again, finally occupying just a small storefront. Both Audrey Lancaster and Zach Lancaster were inside. They all looked dejected. The once celebrated golden girl, now frustrated and unsuccessful, somehow evoked a sense of brokenness. But I just wanted to laugh. Laugh at the humiliation I had endured back then. Laugh at how Audrey Lancaster had squandered her winning hand. Laugh at how love blindness was more toxic than drugs. I'm the kind of person who always repays debts. If someone wrongs me even a little, I'll eventually return it 100-fold. The driver opened the car door for me. As I pushed open the glass door, Audrey Lancaster noticed me first. She was wearing a tracksuit with cargo pants, her face yellow and looking disheveled. Zach Lancaster looked a bit better. After all, he used to be a model, so he didn't appear as down and out. But I heard he hadn't been on the runway for a long time, choosing to be the man behind Audrey Lancaster to share her hardships. The man who had proved himself to be gold on that yacht had become a house husband. "What are you doing here?" Zach Lancaster shouted. I smiled and looked at Audrey Lancaster. She unconsciously took 2 steps forward and called out in a deep, nauseating tone, "William!" I rubbed my cold arms and stepped back in disgust. Audrey Lancaster, as if unable to read the atmosphere, continued forward. "William, I saw in the news that you and Elsie Green broke up." I was completely baffled. Had this woman been possessed? What did my breakup with anyone have to do with her? Did she still think I might be interested in her? Hearing this, Zach Lancaster grabbed Audrey Lancaster's sleeve, disregarding his image. The cheap sweater suddenly split open when pulled. "What the hell do you mean? Are you thinking of rekindling old flames with him? Pa, look at yourself now." "Well said. I've been serving your whole family like a nanny for 2 years, you damn woman. You've been putting off the wedding. Don't think I don't know you and your mother are scheming to marry up." Zach Lancaster was very combative. Audrey Lancaster lost her balance from his pulling and fell to the ground. Audrey Lancaster clenched her fists, losing all face and dignity in front of me. Just as Zach Lancaster was getting carried away, Audrey Lancaster picked up a nearby brick and smashed it hard on his body. Bang! I couldn't help but cover my mouth. Damn. Audrey Lancaster hit him again and again. "If it weren't for you, would I be in such a miserable state? You troublemaker." I was a bit dumbfounded. Were these still the same two who had once disregarded everything for love? I quietly retreated from this small, rundown company and quickly got into the car. I also called the police on the way out. Before coming, I had imagined proudly saying to Audrey Lancaster, "The family fortune built up by generations of your ancestors, decades of cultivation, all gone to waste. Audrey Lancaster, you've lost. But now, forget it. It was pointless to come."